Those were my mom's exact words when I asked why they only paid for my sister's college. But 4 years, 2 jobs, and a full scholarship later, I stood on that graduation stage with a secret that made their faces go pale. Want to see what karma looks like in a cap and gown? Let me show you. I still remember the way my hands trembled when I opened the envelope. The embossed Westlake University seal glinted under the kitchen light, its gold foil catching on the edges of my breath. I had read the letter 3 times already, just to make sure. Full acceptance to the School of Economics. It felt like standing at the beginning of a bridge I had built, brick by brick. Through every late-night tutoring session, every shift at the diner, every moment I had swallowed disappointment and turned it into determination. I walked into the living room, holding the letter like a lifeline. Mom, Dad, I tried to sound calm, but my voice carried that tightness that only comes when you've waited years for something to matter. I got in. Westlake said yes. My father looked up briefly from his laptop, brow furrowed not in surprise, but as if I had interrupted something far more important. That's good, he said flatly, and returned to his spreadsheet. My mother offered a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Congratulations, Olivia. I'm sure they have a decent program. She turned back to stirring her tea. A silence settled between us. It wasn't hostile, just indifferent. Which, in some ways, felt worse. I stood there for a moment longer, hoping for something. A hug, a proud word, a champagne bottle from the fridge, but there was nothing. So I went upstairs, closed the door, and whispered the words to myself, like a secret I got in. 3 hours later, Chloe burst through the front door like a sunbeam. I got into Westlake, she screamed, waving her own letter in the air. Her blonde curls bounced as she spun into the living room. Mom dropped her tea. Oh my God, Chloe. Honey, she cried, wrapping her in a hug. Dad stood up and said, we need champagne. He disappeared into the kitchen, calling for glasses. Mom was already texting family. She got in our Chloe from upstairs. I watched through the railings as they laughed, toasting to Chloe's bright future. Her acceptance letter was passed from hand to hand like a family heirloom. Mine was still sitting on my desk, unopened since I had first placed it there. No one mentioned that we had both gotten in. Later that night, I sat at the dinner table as they made plans for Chloe's dorm, Chloe's major, Chloe's college fund. I tried to join the conversation, but the moment I started to speak, my father turned to Chloe and said, she deserved it. You didn't. I don't think he realized he'd said it aloud. Maybe he did. It was quiet after that. The kind of quiet that doesn't settle, it cuts. I pushed my food around my plate, cheeks burning, ears ringing. No one corrected him. Later that night, the celebration continued in the living room. Music, laughter, corks popping. I closed my door, set up my desk, and powered up my old laptop. The screen flickered. The fan wheezed. But it came to life. I typed scholarships for Westlake University into the search bar. Page after page loaded. I started reading eligibility requirements. Essay pumped. Deadlines. The clock struck midnight. Then 2 a.m. Then 4. I didn't stop. In the other room, Chloe's laughter drifted through the walls, light and effortless. I could picture her curled on the couch, legs tucked under her. Our parents flanking her like guards at a throne. I had always been the quiet one. The one who studied instead of performed. The one who worked after school instead of trying out for theater. The one who never asked for much because I'd learned early that asking often led to disappointment. Chloe was. Chloe. All sunshine and possibility. They always said I was independent. I think what they meant was, you're easier to ignore. By sunrise. I had a spreadsheet of 18 scholarship opportunities and a notebook full of deadlines. My eyes burned. My back ached. But I had built something out of the silence. Something that looked a little like hope. In that moment, I realized something important. They didn't choose me. Not when I made the honor roll. Not when I won the regional math competition. Not even when I spent last summer cleaning houses to afford application fees. They never chose me. But I could choose myself. Before Westlake. Before the champagne. Before that dinner table, silence where my father let the truth slip without apology. There was 1,000 other moments. Small ones. Maybe. But they pile up. Like snow. Like silence. Like being forgotten on purpose. I was 7 when I first realized I was easy to forget. It was during Chloe's first ballet recital. She was 5. Twirling in a sequined pink tutu on a stage that sparkled under the gymnasium lights. My mom was in the front row. Camera flashing like paparazzi. Dad brought Rose's tiny ones. Just her size. When Chloe tripped on her landing, he leapt from his seat like she'd broken a bone. I had come straight from school with a certificate in my backpack, first place. Art showcase. My painting of a cityscape had been chosen out of 80 other entries in the district. I had even used my allowance to frame it. I told them about it in the car. Oh. That's nice. Mom said, checking her lipstick in the visor mirror. We'll hang it on the fridge. They never asked to see it. By middle school, I stopped bringing certificates home. At 13, I learned how to cook dinner. Chloe had a fever and Mom had forgotten the grocery run. Dad was still at work. I found some pasta. Boiled it. And served it with ketchup because we were out of sauce. When Mom came home and saw the meal on the table, she didn't ask how I managed it. She just sighed with relief. You're a lifesaver. Live. Always so easy. Not like Chloe. And I smiled. Because it felt like love. But that's the trick. Isn't it? When you're used to crumbs, even basic acknowledgement feels like a feast. Freshman year of high school, I won a regional science fair for my experiment on water filtration. I built it from scratch, using old aquarium tubes and a hacked-together filter system. My chemistry teacher said it was one of the best projects she'd seen in years. When I got home, I tried to tell Mom while she was on the phone. She held up a finger to silence me, mouthing, Chloe's counselor. I stood in the hallway with the medal still around my neck, listening as she scheduled Chloe's drama auditions, summer dance camp, and a tutor for her SAT prep 2 years early. That night, she forgot to ask about the science fair. I didn't remind her. There was always a reason to choose Chloe. She was charming, blonde and bright. She sang show tunes at dinner and knew how to cry just enough to win sympathy without seeming manipulative. She was good at things people could see: dancing, singing, speaking on a stage. I was good at math, quiet, reading, solving problems without being asked. You've always been so independent, they said. We don't worry about you. But they didn't ask if I wanted to be worried about. If I ever wished, even once, that someone would skip a work meeting or a weekend brunch just to cheer for me. Senior year. The school held a special awards night for top graduates. I was one of them. Valedictorian shortlist. National merit semifinalist. I wore the only dress I owned that wasn't for funerals or interviews. Mom and Dad were supposed to come. They promised they would. But Chloe had a ballroom dance competition that night. The regional finals. They showed up halfway through my principal's speech. Whispered apologies as they slipped into the back row. Mom's eyes were still glittery from Chloe's stage makeup. And Dad clutched a plastic trophy that read second place, Junior Latin Division. They didn't see me walk across the stage. Didn't hear my name called for academic excellence in math, science, and literature. Afterward, I asked if we could grab dinner to celebrate. Dad glanced at his watch. It's late. We've been driving all day. Mom added, let's do something next week. Maybe once your sister's schedule calms down. I watched them pull out of the parking lot before I even reached my car. By the time college applications came around, I had stopped expecting celebration. So, when they dismissed my Westlake acceptance and toasted Chloe's instead, I shouldn't have been surprised. But I was. Not because I believed I was more deserving, but because I had hoped, deep down, that this time would be different. That maybe, just maybe, years of being the steady one, the easy daughter, would finally earn me something more than being overlooked. People think that being invisible is peaceful, quiet. But it's not. It's loud in your head. It's voices whispering. Maybe if you were more fun. Maybe if you needed them more. Maybe if you just disappeared. They wouldn't even notice. I never yelled. Never threw a tantrum. Never dared say, "What about me?" Because I was the good one. And good girls know how to disappear without making noise. I sat on my bed that night after Chloe's champagne toast, staring at the ceiling. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because I didn't know how to anymore. Somewhere along the way, I had trained myself to hold it all in. Pain had become something you folded neatly and tucked behind ambition, like a spare shirt in a suitcase. And loneliness, you got used to it, like cold sheets or missing dinner. But that night, for the first time, I wondered what would it feel like to be seen. Not just noticed, but truly seen. Celebrated. Chosen. Not for being easy. Not for being low maintenance. Not for never needing anyone. But for being enough. That's when I opened my laptop again. Not to search for scholarships this time, but to start a journal. The first line I typed was, "I am tired of being invisible." It was a start. By the time Olivia set foot on the Westlake University campus, she had already weathered more storms than most of her classmates could imagine. Her parents hadn't come to help her move in. Chloe had flown to Europe for a summer program, and her parents were too busy planning a farewell dinner for her to care that Olivia was hauling 2 thrifted suitcases and a second-hand kettle up 3 flights of stairs on her own. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried in a long time. Instead, she unpacked in silence, hung a small string of lights by her twin-sized bed, and opened her laptop to review the terms of her scholarship partial tuition. Renewable annually, with a 3.8 GPA. The rest, she would cover with 2 jobs, a 5 a.m. shift as a barista at Beanhouse Cafe, and tutoring freshman English and calculus on campus. Her roommates, loud and carefree, were planning their first college party. Olivia declined politely, citing her early shift. "You're not fun," one yoked. Olivia smiled. She was used to that. What kept her going in those first grueling months was a woman named Miss Ramirez, an academic advisor with sharp eyes and a gentler tone than Olivia had ever expected from anyone in authority. They first met when Olivia accidentally double-enrolled in 2 overlapping classes. "You've taken on too much," Miss Ramirez said, scanning her schedule. "And you're working 20 hours a week." Olivia nodded. Defensive. "I can manage." Miss Ramirez didn't argue. Instead, she said, "I believe you can. But you shouldn't have to." That was the first time anyone had ever said something like that to Olivia. Not "you're so independent" or "you're strong," but an acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, she deserved a little ease. The next day, Olivia found an envelope in her campus mailbox, a small departmental grant, only $500 but enough to cover her textbooks for the semester. It came with a handwritten note, "For someone who never asks but always gives their best. R." She kept that note tucked inside her planner. She reread it on nights. She came back from closing shift so tired her bones ached. When she still had chapters to read before dawn. One Thursday evening, she was walking back from the tutoring center when her phone buzzed. A voicemail from her mother. "Just wanted to say Chloe got nominated for the state dance team. We're so proud. She's really putting herself out there. I know you're doing your own thing too. Anyway, I hope you're eating okay." Olivia let the message play twice. She stared at the sidewalk. Chloe. Chloe. Always, Chloe. Doing your own thing was code for "we don't really understand or care what you're doing." Later that week, while heating canned soup in the shared dorm kitchen, she heard another voicemail. This one accidentally recorded of her mom talking to Aunt Brenda. "Olivia. Yeah. She's fine. I guess. Smart. Sure. But that girl's like a block of ice. Doesn't talk. Doesn't ask for help. I mean, she's impossible to love sometimes." The ladle slipped from Olivia's hand and clattered into the pot. A roommate glanced up. Olivia forced a laugh, muttering something about hot handles. But inside, she was frozen. Impossible to love. The words carved into her like glass. That night, she didn't sleep. Not because of homework. Not because of her job. But because she lay awake, wondering if it was true. If maybe, no matter how hard she worked, she would always be too quiet, too cold, too much or not enough. The next day, her professor handed back a graded midterm. Brilliant analysis. He wrote across the top. A perfect score. But she barely registered it. Over Thanksgiving break, her roommates all went home. She stayed behind to take extra shifts. When her mom called to ask if she was coming back, Olivia said no. "I'm saving up. Finals are close." She lied. "Oh. Okay. Well, maybe Christmas." But Olivia already knew she wouldn't go back for Christmas either. What would be the point? To watch them dote on Chloe. Ask her the same questions they never asked Olivia. To sleep in her childhood room turned storage space. She spent the holiday cleaning tables and sneaking bites of leftover pastries the manager let her take home. On Christmas Eve, after closing, She walked through the quiet campus and sat beneath a lit tree outside the student union. No presents. No carols. Just her and the cold. But that night, Olivia pulled out a blank journal. Wrote at the top of the first page my own way. Then she wrote, "I am not cold. I am just tired of begging to be seen." And for the first time, she let herself cry. Not because she felt weak, but because she finally knew she wasn't the problem. She never had been. Winter came hard and fast that year. The days got shorter. The wind sharper. And Olivia found herself spending more and more time alone until Maya moved in. Maya was a transfer student majoring in psychology. Assigned to Olivia's dorm room just before the spring semester. She arrived with 2 oversized suitcases, a sketchbook full of doodles, and a plant named Bean. Within 24 hours, she had covered her side of the room in fairy lights, poetry clippings, and a soft blue throw blanket Olivia kept glancing at without realizing. Unlike Olivia's past roommates, Maya didn't treat silence like a threat. She didn't force small talk. But when she spoke, it was with intention. One rainy Tuesday, as they both sat studying in parallel quiet, Maya looked up and said, "You always look like you're carrying something heavy, even when you're standing still." Olivia blinked. "What do you mean?" Maya shrugged gently. "I don't know. You just seem like you're used to holding things in. Like you've never had someone say, 'Hey, you don't have to carry all that by yourself.'" For a long beat, Olivia didn't respond. No one had ever noticed that before. Or, if they had, they never cared enough to say it. Maya wasn't nosy, but she noticed everything. When Olivia came back from work looking extra drained, Maya would wordlessly hand her a cup of tea. When Olivia got another backhanded voicemail from her mother, "Hope you're working hard." Chloe just got another internship offer, Maya would offer chocolate and a trashy reality show marathon. One evening, Olivia apologized for being too quiet. Maya laughed. "Are you kidding? You're literally the only person I've ever lived with who doesn't play music at full blast at 2 a.m. I adore the quiet. You don't take up space until you do. And when you do, it's powerful." They grew close in ways only 2 girls navigating young adulthood on their own could. They studied together, shared grocery runs, traded life stories in whispers at 1 a.m. under a blanket of fairy lights. Olivia had never had someone choose her just because. Not for grades. Not because she was the responsible one. Just because she was herself. One night in early spring, Olivia came home from work exhausted. Her shoes soaked through from a busted street drain. She opened the door and was hit with the smell of something warm: basil. Maybe garlic. The dorm room was dark except for candles flickering on the windowsill. Maya stood in the tiny kitchenette, apron on, stirring something in a pot. "What's all this?" Olivia asked, setting down her bag. Maya turned, smiling like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "It's your birthday." Olivia froze. "What? I saw your student ID last month. I've been planning this for weeks." The table was set with 2 plates, mismatched but clean. In the center was a pasta dish that looked like it belonged on the front of a food magazine. Beside it, a cupcake with a single candle. Maya lit the candle and held out a fork. "Make a wish." Olivia sat down slowly, unsure how to exist in this moment. No one had done this before. Her birthdays at home were often forgotten or lumped in with Chloe's achievements. Once, her parents gave her a planner as a gift and then asked her to help organize Chloe's dance competition schedule. She stared at the flickering candle. For a second, she couldn't think of anything to wish for because this quiet, glowing room filled with effort and care was already more than she'd ever dared to hope. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "I don't know what to wish for." "Then wish for nothing," Maya said gently. "That means you finally have something." The candle flickered once more. Then Olivia blew it out. They ate slowly, in between shared stories and laughter. Maya gave her a small wrapped package, a thrifted copy of Letters to a Young Poet with a note inside. "You don't need permission to take up space. Love. M." Olivia didn't mean to cry. She tried not to. But at some point between the second bite of garlic bread and Maya teasing her about her serious face, the tears came. Not hard or loud. Just steady. Quiet. "Hey. What's wrong?" Maya asked softly. "Alarm it." "Nothing," Olivia whispered, wiping her face. "That's the thing. Nothing's wrong. I didn't know it could feel like this. Like I didn't have to earn it." "You don't," Maya said. "You never did." That night, Olivia lay awake. But not from anxiety. Not from fear. She stared at the ceiling, hand on her chest, trying to remember the exact feeling. Not the pasta or the candle, but the warmth. The way it felt to be loved. Not because she was useful, or clever, or resilient, but just because she existed. For the first time, she didn't feel like a ghost in her own life. She felt chosen. Not by blood, but by something deeper. The day dawned clear and golden, as if the universe itself was celebrating. Olivia stood in front of the mirror in her modest off-campus apartment, hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the folds of her graduation gown. The cap itched against her scalp, and the honor cords around her neck felt heavier than they should have weighted, not by thread, but by memory. Maya peeked in from the doorway, clutching a small paper-wrapped bouquet of daisies. "You ready?" Miss Valedictorian Olivia smiled, nails crackling beneath her skin. "As ready as I'll ever be." Today, she would stand in front of thousands of classmates, professors, families, and speak as the chosen representative of the School of Business. Her speech had been revised a dozen times. It wasn't just words, it was her truth. But it wasn't just this speech that filled her with equal parts dread and anticipation. It was knowing who would be in the audience. Her family. Correction, her biological family. They hadn't congratulated her when the email arrived, announcing her selection as class speaker. They hadn't asked to see a copy of her speech. But they had RSVP'd with enthusiasm when Chloe mentioned she'd be getting an arts distinction sash and wanted the family to sit front row for photos. Olivia had spotted their names on the seating chart in the honored guest section. VIP. Dead center. Right in front of the stage. She doubted they even knew she'd be speaking. Outside the auditorium, the campus buzzed with caps and gowns, tearful parents and proud siblings. Maya walked beside her, practically vibrating with excitement. "Today's the day," she whispered. "You're gonna burn the whole damn room down in the best way." Inside, the ceremony unfolded like clockwork. Deans in their colorful regalia marched in. Names were called. Families whooped and whistled. Chloe's name was read, and their parents stood for photos. Her father with his phone out, her mother dabbing tears from her eyes. Olivia sat still, Her name was yet to come. Finally, the dean of the business school took the stage. Every year, we invite one exceptional student to address the graduating class. This year's speaker is not only a top scholar, but a builder, a leader, and a living embodiment of grit. Please welcome Olivia Reed. A ripple of polite applause moved through the crowd. And then, silence as she approached the podium. She saw them. Her parents. Chloe. Sitting there. Still smiling from Chloe's moment. Their expressions shifted as Olivia stepped into the spotlight. Surprise. Then confusion. Then something unreadable. Olivia adjusted the microphone. Her heart thudded. I came to Westlake 4 years ago with 2 suitcases, 1 scholarship, and 3 part-time jobs. What I didn't have was belief, not from the people I thought I'd get it from. Not from the ones who were supposed to see me. She paused. Let it hang. I wasn't the loudest voice in the room. I wasn't the easiest to cheer for. But I showed up. Every day. I studied between shifts. I failed and got back up. I built a business out of an idea. And I found my family in the people who didn't share my blood, but saw my heart. The auditorium held its breath. I used to think I needed someone's permission to be proud of myself, to call myself worthy. But Westlake taught me something else. That you don't wait for someone to clap for you. You learn how to build your own stage. And then you dance on it. Applause thundered through the room. And in the second row, her mother blinked in stunned silence. Her father's jaw was clenched. Chloe clapped hesitantly. Olivia stepped back, her chest rising and falling. She didn't cry. She didn't stumble. She stood in the power she had earned. Then the university president stepped forward. Before we conclude today's ceremony, he said, we have one final recognition. A pause. Each year, the National Collegiate Startup Initiative selects one student-led enterprise that demonstrates innovation, resilience, and measurable community impact. This year, the winner of the national title is none other than Olivia Reed. For her project, PathBridge, a digital service connecting low-income students with mentorship and scholarship resources. The auditorium erupted. Applause. Cheers. The kind of sound that swallows you whole. Olivia stood frozen for a beat, blinking as the screen behind the stage lit up with a photo of her project, followed by a clip of her pitching at the national finals. She didn't just deserve it, the president said, voice rising over the crowd. She earned every second of it. The camera panned over the audience. Her parents' faces were on screen now expressionless. Pal. Chloe leaned forward. Stunned. And Olivia. She smiled. Not in triumph. Not in spite. But in peace. She had finally become someone they could no longer ignore, but that no longer mattered. She hadn't done it to prove them wrong. She had done it to prove herself right. As she left the stage, Maya caught her hand and squeezed. You did it, she whispered. No, Olivia replied, her voice steady. We did. And for the first time in her life, Olivia Reed walked toward the next chapter, not as the invisible child in the back row, but as the woman the whole room couldn't look away from. The clinking of glasses and warm laughter echoed through the tall windows of the reception hall. Faculty members chatted in small clusters. Graduates posed for photos with their families. And the scent of vanilla cupcakes and celebration floated in the air. Olivia stood near the center, surrounded by professors and classmates who now looked at her with something new in their eyes, not just admiration, but respect. Olivia. That speech, Professor Ames, her senior year advisor, pressed a hand to his chest. I've taught here 22 years. And that may be the most grounded, powerful commencement address I've heard. Thank you, Olivia said softly. Her smile, small but real. Her cheeks were flushed from the attention. But her posture stayed steady. This time, she didn't feel the need to shrink herself. Behind the crowds, near the back of the room, her family stood together quiet. Out of place. Her father was scrolling through his phone. Her mother kept glancing at Olivia, uncertainty in her eyes. Chloe clutched a bouquet someone had handed her earlier, her grip tight and fidgety. Olivia turned away. She didn't owe them the spotlight today. Liv Maya's voice broke through the crowd. And seconds later, her arms wrapped around Olivia. You were a damn hurricane up there. Olivia laughed into her shoulder. Is that good or bad? It's legendary. Maya whispered. Everyone saw you. Finally. I didn't do it to be seen. Maya pulled back, grinning. But you were. And you deserve it. Before Olivia could respond, a gentle touch came on her elbow. She turned to find a woman in her late 70s, dressed in a simple but elegant navy blue dress, her silver hair pinned into a loose bun. Grandma. Olivia breathed. Her grandmother, her father's mother. The only person in the family who had never made her feel like a disappointment, took her hand with a quiet pride. I watched every word, she said. And every word made me remember the little girl who used to draw maps in the backyard dirt and talk about changing the world. Olivia's eyes welled up unexpectedly. Her grandmother reached into her small purse and pulled out a velvet box. I've kept this for you, she said. My mother gave it to me on my graduation. I didn't think I'd ever find the right moment, or the right girl in this family, to pass it to. Inside the box was a delicate gold chain with a single opal at its center. Promise me something, her grandmother said. Don't ever let anyone make you forget your worth. Not because they didn't see it, but because you always knew it was there. Olivia swallowed hard and nodded. I promise. She fastened the chain around her neck, her fingers trembling just a little. It felt like armor, and memory, and love. Later, as the party began to thin, she noticed her mother approaching, awkwardly navigating through the tables. Olivia didn't move. Her mother stopped just short of arm's reach. Her posture was unsure, her fingers fidgeting with the strap of her purse. I didn't know, she said quietly. I didn't know you were doing all of that. Building a business, winning competitions, giving speeches. Olivia looked at her, head tilted slightly. You didn't ask. The words weren't said with anger, just fact. Her mother blinked. I just thought you were always fine. You didn't need as much as Chloe did. There it was. The same old story. I needed different things, Olivia said. And when no one gave them, I learned to find them elsewhere. A long silence. You were amazing today, her mother said. I don't think I've ever been that proud. Olivia smiled. Polite, but distant. Thank you. Then she turned her gaze back toward the group of friends who were waving her over. Maya holding up a plastic flute of champagne and toast. I should get back, she said simply. Her mother hesitated, then stepped back. Of course. And just like that, Olivia walked away gracefully. Without guilt. Without the weight of waiting for words that had taken too long to arrive. Across the room, Maya was holding court, animatedly mimicking how Olivia had paused at the mic just before her big line. "You should have seen the parents' faces," she whispered when Olivia returned. That camera zoom was brutal. Olivia laughed. "I didn't even see it. Didn't have to." Maya grinned. "The whole internet probably will by tomorrow." Olivia looked around the room at the professors who had become mentors, at the classmates who had become supporters, at the friends who had become family. Her grandmother raised her glass from the corner of the room, eyes shining with pride. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia didn't feel like she was fighting for a seat at someone else's table. She had built her own. The apartment was unusually quiet that evening. The graduation banners had been taken down. Leftover cupcakes sat untouched on the kitchen counter. And the flowers from the ceremony had begun to wilt slightly in their vase. Olivia sat at her desk by the window, the city lights flickering like nervous stars outside. In front of her was a blank page. She hadn't planned on writing anything tonight. But something inside her, something heavy, dense, refused to let her sleep. It had been building for years, and now it demanded to be released. She picked up her pen. "Dear Mom and Dad, I'm not sending this letter. I probably never will. But I need to write it. Because I need to say all the things I never could not, because I wasn't allowed. But because I didn't believe I was allowed. You might not remember my 7th birthday. I do. It was the year Chloe had her piano recital on the same day. And everyone ran late. My cake sat melting on the counter when I got home from school. You lit the candles, rushed me through the song, and forgot to give me the present you said you bought. That night, I told myself maybe I just imagined asking for a party at all. That was the first time I felt invisible. There was the time in 8th grade when I won the regional science fair, and no one came to see my display. I came home clutching the ribbon and you said, "That's great. But Chloe's rehearsal ran late. She needs our support more. She's under pressure." I wondered what pressure I needed to be under for someone to notice me. In high school, I learned how to be independent. Because it was the only option. When I made dinner, I made enough for myself. When I got sick, I made tea and brought myself medicine. When I cried, I did it quietly so no one would accuse me of being dramatic. I became so good at being fine that even I started believing it. When the college acceptance letters came, I let myself hope. For one moment, I thought maybe this is it. Maybe they'll see me now. I told you first. You nodded, said nice job, and moved on. But when Chloe got hers, when you popped champagne and called every relative, you didn't even look back to see me holding the same acceptance envelope in my hands. Then came the words that stayed etched in my bones. She deserved it. You didn't. I've repeated them to myself on every long night. On every shift. Working both jobs to afford tuition. I thought if I worked hard enough, one day you'd take them back. You haven't. You didn't know about the night I stayed up applying for loans after my FAFSA got flagged. You didn't know about the panic attacks during midterms when my paycheck didn't clear in time for rent. You never asked. But I kept going anyway. I built something from nothing. And I did it alone. But not truly alone. I met Maya. She celebrated my birthday like it mattered. She listened when I spoke. She showed up. That word showing up means more to me now than love ever did. I learned that love, without showing up, is a ghost. It haunts. But it doesn't hold. And then came graduation. You came. But only for Chloe. Saturday in the VIP section. You didn't know I was the keynote speaker. You looked shocked when my name was called. And when the dean announced my national competition win, I saw your faces. For the first time. You looked like the ones who didn't belong. I don't need to hurt you. This letter isn't revenge. I don't want apologies that come too late or compliments that feel borrowed. I just want to say this: I forgive you. Not because you've earned it. Not because I think you deserve peace. I forgive you because I deserve freedom. I deserve to live without carrying your silence like a weight. I deserve to stop chasing praise that was never meant for me. I deserve to look in the mirror and see someone worthy, not because she was finally seen, but because she finally saw herself. So this is it. My goodbye to the version of me that waited. Olivia put down her pen. The letter sat heavy on the desk. But her chest felt lighter. She didn't cry. Not tonight. Her tears had already taught her everything they could. She stood and walked to her mirror. Her reflection met her with a quiet steadiness. Around her neck, the silver chain her grandmother had given her glinted gently in the soft lamplight. Don't let anyone make you forget your worth. Olivia smiled, not the performative, hopeful smile she used to wear like a mask. This one was rooted in something deeper. It was the smile of someone who had walked through fire. Not to prove herself to others, but to find herself within the ashes. For the first time, her smile was not a request. It was a statement. She was not invisible. Not anymore. It was a quiet Sunday morning. Olivia sat cross-legged on her apartment floor, surrounded by packing tape, half-filled boxes, and a growing pile of books that she still couldn't decide whether to keep or donate. Her lease was up in 2 weeks, and she was preparing to move closer to the downtown office of the consulting firm she'd just signed with. She took a break, opened her laptop to check emails, expecting the usual clutter notifications. Spam. Newsletters she kept meaning to unsubscribe from. But one subject line froze her breath mid-chest. Your story gave me the courage to leave. She clicked it without thinking. The message was short but potent, typed in a trembling tone that bled through the screen. Dear Olivia, you don't know me, but I saw a clip of your graduation speech online. I recognized myself in your words. The way you spoke about being invisible, about being told you were too much or not enough, that was my life too. After years of believing my parents' silence meant I wasn't worth loving, I finally left home last week. I packed what I could and moved in with a friend. It's terrifying. But your story made me feel less alone. Thank you for being brave. Your light helped me find my way out of the dark. Talia R. Arshar. Kansas City. Olivia stared at the screen, her eyes stinging. She hadn't known anyone had filmed the speech. She certainly hadn't thought of herself as brave. But someone did. And not just anyone, someone like her. A younger version of herself. Reaching out across space and silence. Saying, I saw you. You helped me believe I mattered. For a long moment, Olivia couldn't move. Then, instinctively, she did something she hadn't done in years. She cried. Not from pain this time, but from the ache of recognition. From the staggering weight of realizing that her story, her struggle, her fight, her quiet refusal to disappear had become a map for someone else. She typed back, Dear Talia, Thank you for sharing your story with me. What you've done takes enormous strength. I hope you know that your choice to start over is not just brave, it's beautiful. I want you to know something: you were never the problem. You were just too bright for people who forgot how to see. Stay safe. And if you ever need someone to remind you of your worth, I'm here. With love and hope. Olivia. She hit send with trembling fingers. That evening, she met Maya at their favorite cafe for what they called their monthly soul inventory. They'd started the tradition during finals week junior year. A way to check in beyond grades and goals. Maya arrived with 2 coffees and a lopsided grin. Okay, she said, sliding Olivia's cup across the table. You've got that weird glowy face again. What happened? Olivia pulled out her phone and handed it to her. Read this. Maya read the email from Talia in silence. Her eyes softening. When she finished, she looked up, blinking. That's huge. I know, Olivia said. And it got me thinking, what if there are more Talias? What if we could help them before they feel like disappearing is their only option? You mean like mentoring? I mean something bigger, Olivia said. Voice steady now. A scholarship. For students who didn't have family support. Not just financially, but emotionally. People like us. Maya leaned back, studying her friend. You're serious? I've been budgeting. I can contribute from my signing bonus. And I want to name it after my grandmother. The one who gave you the necklace. Olivia touched the chain gently. She was the first person who ever told me I mattered. I want that voice in someone else's life. 2 months later, the Eleanor Grace Resilience Scholarship was officially established. It wasn't massive enough to cover books, partial tuition, and some living expenses, but it came with something most scholarships didn't: a handwritten letter from Olivia to every recipient, saying this isn't a reward for perfection. It's a reminder, you are worthy even when no one tells you. Especially then. She also included a small, symbolic pendant with each award, a tiny silver flame. Because even in darkness, there was light to carry. The press picked up the story after a local journalist, a Westlake alumna herself, interviewed Olivia for the university newsletter. She hadn't expected the article to go viral. But, suddenly, emails and messages began pouring in. Not just from students. From teachers. From single mothers. From women in their 40s and 50s who whispered, I never had a name for what I felt. Until I read your story. I've spent my life trying to earn love that should have been freely given. You've helped me forgive a version of myself that only knew how to survive. Each message was another thread Olivia hadn't known she was weaving until they formed a net strong enough to catch someone else before they fell. On a quiet Saturday, Olivia stood in front of a small group of the first scholarship recipients at Westlake's orientation event. They looked nervous, hopeful, a little like she used to. She smiled. You might feel out of place right now, she told them. Like you don't belong because no one paved the road here for you. She paused. But you built your own road. And that makes you unstoppable. They clapped. But it wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. The power wasn't in the volume, it was in the knowing. The recognition. The quiet understanding that they were seen. That night, Olivia walked home with Maya under a silver-threaded sky. The streetlights flickered above like stars bending down to listen. Do you ever feel like everything we went through? Maya began. Then trailed off. Was worth it. Olivia finished. Maya nodded. Olivia looked up at the night sky. Then, down at the small flame pendant she wore over her grandmother's necklace. Not worth it, she said softly. But, maybe, it's becoming something beautiful. And for the first time in her life, she didn't just feel strong. She felt luminous. The scent of warm cinnamon and roasted vegetables filled the apartment as Olivia stirred the stew. There her sleeves rolled up. Her heart oddly light. It was her idea to host this dinner a quiet, home-cooked celebration for the people who had become her true family. No guest list curated by obligation. No fancy seating plans. No need to prove anything to anyone. Maya breezed in with a bottle of sparkling grape juice and a tray of homemade cookies. This counts as cooking, right? She grinned, holding up the tray like a trophy. Olivia laughed. Only because they smell amazing. Soon, the table filled with the sounds of clinking cutlery, bursts of laughter, and the warmth of shared memories. Beside her sat Maya, whose loyalty had never wavered. Across was Nana Jean, her grandmother, with the twinkle in her eye that always reminded Olivia who first believed in her. And sprinkled around the table were classmates, turned sisters, in spirit Nina, her fierce debate partner, Thomas, who always made room for everyone's voice, and Leah, the quiet artist who once painted Olivia's portrait without asking. Simply because you carry stories in your bones. As they passed dishes around and filled glasses, someone brought up Olivia's scholarship fund, the one she had started for students with no family support. You're really changing lives. Liv, said Nina, eyes shining. I wish I had someone like you when I started out. Olivia blushed. She still wasn't used to praise. Later, after dessert, when the table had mellowed into that golden post-meal hush, Olivia sat back in her chair and looked around at the glow of lamplight on familiar faces. She found herself asking, almost without meaning to, do you guys ever wonder if people like me were ever meant to be loved easily? The words fell soft, but heavy. There was a beat of silence before Maya reached across the table, her hand firm on Olivia's. Not were. You are meant to be loved completely. Messily. Without earning it. Always have been, she said. They just didn't have the heart big enough to hold you. That's on them. Nana Jean smiled, leaning in. Family isn't who shares your name. It's who stays when there's nothing left to offer but the truth. That hit Olivia deep. For so long, she had measured herself by her usefulness, her grades, her ability to survive, her endurance. But, here, no one needed her to prove anything. Tomas chimed in. You know, there's something magical about watching someone rewrite what family means. You didn't just survive. Live. You turned your story into shelter for others. Olivia looked around at the faces glowing with care. With respect, not obligation. Not performance. Real. Chosen. She thought of her old bedroom. Still probably decorated with dusty dance trophies and untouched photo albums of her sister. She thought of the apology never spoken. Of the truth that never mattered until the world forced them to see it. And then, she let it go. Not as forgetfulness, but as freedom. Here's to the family we choose, she said, lifting her glass. Here's to never needing to earn love again. Maya added. They clinked glasses. And for the first time in her life, Olivia felt like she belonged. No striving. No scars in disguise. Just being. As the night wore on and people started heading out with hugs and promises to meet again soon, Olivia stayed behind to clean up, humming quietly to herself. Nena, Jean Lingal. As always, the last to leave. She placed a soft kiss on Olivia's forehead. I hope you know, child, that you've become the kind of woman I prayed you'd be. Olivia smiled. I'm starting to believe I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. When she finally turned off the lights and settled into bed, her phone buzzed. A new email. Subject line. Thank you. She opened it. Hi, Olivia. I just wanted to say your story came to me on a night I was about to give up. My mom told me I was too much. Again. That no one would ever stay for someone like me. But then I heard your speech. And suddenly, I believed I didn't need to shrink to be loved. Thank you for holding the mirror until I saw myself. Olivia stared at the screen, tears slowly rising. She wasn't just healing herself anymore. She had become a lighthouse for others still caught in the storm. She wrote back. You were never too much. You were just too bright for small rooms. Keep walking. The people who deserve your light will never ask you to dim it. Before she closed her eyes, she whispered into the dark. I was always worthy. I just needed to stop asking the wrong people to see it. And somewhere, not far from her, in a dozen other quiet rooms, others were reading her story, seeing their own pain in her journey. And maybe, just maybe, beginning to believe they too could rewrite what